Diplomats, the time is now. Actually, it's about another, I'm going to give you guys another 2 minutes. So this is the 2-minute warning. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Please grab a paper and pen or a laptop or something that you can take notes with. You can send this link out to your friends, neighbors, family members. They're going to get empowered by this podcast. One minute. Somebody said my name is Bennett and I'm in it to win it. I know that was corny. Gotta learn to laugh at yourself, right? All right. I'm ready to cook here. Hopefully you guys are ready to eat. About to give you some mind food to chew on. Looks like we got 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Please text your neighbor, your family members, your friends. I know you like them, you love them. Probably don't want to send this to your enemies, right? Now, behave yourself, right? All right. The countdown is beginning. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, welcome, Kingdom Diplomats. I am very excited to be here. I know you guys are too. Thank you for stopping in for this episode. Looks like I'm in season 1 still, episode 16. And if you're new here, again, welcome to you. I congratulate you. Okay, here's why I congratulate you. Number 1, for being curious, right? Being curious. As we get older, a lot of times when life beats us up, we stop being curious. Number 2, being perceptive. Okay, you're at the right place at the right time. So you can be at the right place and at the wrong time, and you can miss your opportunity. And you can be at the wrong, you can have the right time, but be at the wrong place and miss the opportunity. Okay. So yes, if you can't watch it live, you can go back and listen to it. I always recommend, researchers say, in order to get the concept of something, listen to something at least 7 times and take notes, right? Because we're creatures of habit. And since we already have a system of thinking in our mind already, some of it is voluntary, but the foundation of it is a lot to do with involuntary reasons and mechanisms, right? So that's the foundation of where we are in life in every single area. So one of the reasons why I congratulate new people and people who will keep coming back is 90% of success is just showing up. I've learned that reading multiple books. Some of my mentors in the past have told me that, and it's true. A lot of the things that I've been blessed with my family was because I just showed up, right? I wasn't always the most talented person in a specific area. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest, but I just showed up and I was willing to learn, right? I was enthusiastic, right? I heard somebody say enthusiasm is God within, right? It's kind of like sticking, don't do this. I don't encourage doing this. But it's like sticking, a hanger in a socket, right? I actually did something dumb like that back in high school. But and I almost probably blew up. I did probably blow up one of the sockets in my home ec teacher. Oh man, I got in trouble for that one. I could have gotten more trouble, but she took me outside and kind of reprimanded me because I did deserve it, man. I could have, my socks probably could have turned yellow and brown, if you know what I mean, if that electricity had hit me straightforward. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. That's BC. Some of y'all get that later on. But anyway, so yes, the episode, this is part 3 of the value of the whole you, WHOLE. Now, if you've been following me, this is my third part and 16th episode. If you go back, I talked about the soul, right? And I did tell you about the soul. The soul is made up of your mind, your will, your emotions, your intellect. That's your decision making, right? Your emotions, right? We've all experienced the whole gambit of A to Z of emotions, right? And that's not bad, but you do have to understand some laws dealing with the soul. So I'm not going to go into that, but if you go to my previous my previous talk last week, you can, check that out, take some notes. And then the week before that, I talked about the body, right? Because man is a triune being. Now, when I talk about man, I'm talking about mankind. I'm talking about the species called mankind, okay? And God called the species mankind called Adam. Okay, Adam, again, is not his name. Adam was actually a title, like Mr., Mrs., If you follow the Romans or the Greeks and everything, the society that we grew up in the Western world, Caesar was a title, right? You had Caesar, Tiberius, Caesar, Augustus, and there was like 14, 16 Caesars, something like that, okay? So you get what I'm saying? It was a title. So it's a species, male plus female equals mankind. I also talked about the doorway to this planet. To give you a physical body, you and I, a physical body, is the womb, right? That's what a woman is. If you slow it down, womb man is a man with a womb. That's what a woman is, right? That's the doorway to this planet, okay? So the foundation of this channel is an educational channel, okay? And so what I'm doing is I'm teaching you the value of, or should I say, what to value, why to value, and how to value yourself, right? Because not a one of us is a mistake, okay? I don't care the act, rape, incest. Obviously, those acts are not, godly, but the life that was born was a life given, right? By God, right? Specifically, I like to say Christ, because Christ means Mashiach, means anointed king, right? A king, okay? A king has a kingdom, and a king desires to have an offspring, okay? And if you never heard this before, you are the offspring of Christ. Now, I don't care what religion you are, what religion you're in or haven't, maybe you haven't heard this before, but I'm here to tell you is that it is true, okay? And at the end, I'm going to give you some evidence, okay? Somebody said, okay, give me, this religious book, Bible. I read the Bible. I don't understand it. Da, 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 da. Listen, the Bible is a constitution. I can guarantee you never heard that before, okay? The Bible is a constitution. So in order to be part of a constitution has to be part of a government, and the government has to be part of a country, right? And so that leads me to talk about the kingdom of heaven. Okay, that's the invisible kingdom, right? That's where Christ reigns at. Okay, so and by the way, that's the center of the universe. That's where you get a lot of these Marvel and these superhero movies and all that type of stuff like that. Guess where it comes from? Yeah, you guessed it. Matter of fact, in the book of Psalms, which was written by King David, which we already know naturally that is part of history, King David was led by the Spirit of God, and he talked about that Christ is the ancient king. So that means the original king, right? Some people say OG. Look at that OG, original gangster, as they would say. But in this case, he's the original king. So that's where we get the concepts in the natural form of kingship. Okay, so it's not a religion, and he didn't bring a religion, as I said before in previous talks, a religion called Christianity. Okay, so I don't have time to get into that. You can delve into that. I got other talks about that proving. But if you just run a reference, if you run a reference as far as the definition of a king, you'll see a king is a politician. A king rules his territory, and a king actually also desires to have offspring, and that's where we come in. Okay, this is his original idea. Okay, so again, what to value, why to value, and how to value you. Because if you haven't noticed, there's very few people that will actually value you. There's no one actually who will value you more than yourself, right? Even to some degree, in many degrees, your mom and your dad, right? Because they have to value themselves, right? You can't give what you haven't got. If you have a mom and dad that have a low self-image, it's very hard to value. If they can't value themselves, how can they give you value to yourself, right? You see what I'm saying? Now, some parents they can say, hey, I can't do this or I can't do that, but they say, hey, listen, we know that you're a gift, and they'll breathe life into you. But for the most part, a lot of times it's hard to do that, right? So anyway, so the recipe for success also too in the foundation of my podcast is also about empowering. See, if you value yourself, value meaning worth, right? If you know where you came from, remember those 5 important questions I keep talking about? That's the cornerstone of this podcast. Who am I? Identity. Why am I here? Right? Origin. Where am I going? Right? It has to do with vision. What can I do? My gifts and everything like that. And where am I from? Right? Again, actually that has to do with origin, right? Those 5 important questions, those 5 vital questions that actually most people on the planet, past, present, and hopefully a lot less in the future, will understand. These are 5 questions we need to know, okay? And again, if you want to know about them, go to my previous talks, okay? So here's a recipe that will empower you. So if you break down the word power, empower means to give yourself power, right? And those are the things that we get frustrated about, we get angry about in life, right? Because we can't control a lot of things, right? Certain circumstances, right? And now, obviously, that there's obviously circumstances that I can't control as far as things that are out of my control, right? There's just some things that we can't do, right? We're limited in this flesh. And I did tell you last week that I'm going to get into the third part of us, which is the core of us, which is us individually, meaning the spirit man, okay? If you never heard of that, you just hang around, okay? Now, controlling circumstances, all right? Well, how do you control circumstances? Because everybody desires power. I mean, everybody desires power of some sort. And again, it's not power over people, because in Genesis 1:26, I talk about, God telling mankind, hey, listen, I'm giving you power. I'm creating you in my, as having the same spiritual characteristics. I'm creating mankind to have to function like me. Okay. Right. So we're created on the same plane as him, the same level. Okay. Now, obviously, we're not all knowing and all this and everything like that, but he gave us a piece of himself to where we can see something, a vision, and we can go after it, a righteous vision, and we can go after it, and he can bring the right people, the pieces of the puzzle for us to accomplish that godly vision, right? Now, there are some ungodly and evil visions that people have, and who are like-minded, right? Because like-minded people attract themselves. And see, what they're doing is that they're taking their power and they're exercising it and misplacing it and displacing it over people, right? They're trying to control people, right? Because they don't know who they are, right? They think having a bunch of money is power, and it is to some degree, right? But if if you have all this money and your life's falling apart, around that your house is on fire. What's the use of having all that money, right? Why do you think some people that have a bunch of money commit suicide, right? Or they die by themselves, right? So anyway, so gathering knowledge, and if you remember, I said before, knowledge means information. It also means, I believe so in the Hebrew, if I remember correctly, means light. Okay, not light bulb on, light bulb off, right? So it's light. In other words, you're getting some information that turns a light on in your mind. You're saying, aha, right? I call it a wabam moment. And I got to get back to that. At some point in time, we're going to have a wabam moment. We have all had that during our course of our lifetime where somebody gave us some information that we had no idea, right? Because none of us knows it all. And we was like, wow, I didn't even know that. And you checked into it and it got validated and you got information, you got light on the situation. Okay. Now, there's a difference between gathering the right information or the right knowledge, getting light on something, and receiving that knowledge. Well, what do you mean, Tyreek? So we receive or we take in information all the time. You follow me? We take in information all the time, but a lot of that information, we look at it based upon our system of thinking of, okay, most important, medium importance, or least important, right? How many times has somebody gave you their name? I've done it before, too many times. And, 2 minutes later on, I got to ask them their name again. When I should have been focusing on that person and saying, okay, I'm important, but I'm listening to this other person who's important. And because they're speaking to me, I need to focus and I need to know what their name is so I can keep bringing it up, right? So I learned that in people skill books, right? So that's because our names are important, right? Okay. And if you remember also too, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I told you should look up the meaning of your name, because the meaning of your name, just like words have meaning, right? They create pictures in the right side of our head, are everything, right? And they dictate the emotions and everything. So let me stay on track here. All right. So here's the difference between getting knowledge, getting light, the right kind of light, and receiving it. So when you receive something, so let me back up. So getting the knowledge is kind of like just taking in the info, right? It goes through one ear and out the other, right? I think my mom and dad probably told me that. Didn't I tell you? I told you that, and it just went through one ear, right, out the other, right? We've all been through there before, right? Maybe at work or maybe at school or something like that. And we don't get it right away. Okay. Now, having a photo genic memory is a little bit different. One of our kids, actually my wife, they can go to a place for the most part one time, and guess what? We go back to that area again. I'm like, oh, which way do we go this time, that time? If I'm not paying attention, they'll say, oh yeah, turn here, go over there, and on there. And they're like, man, just one time, that's all it takes, right? So, but anyway, but for the most part, overall, when you just get information for the first time, it just goes through one ear and out the other, for the most part. Now, how do you receive that knowledge? How do you receive that light that I'm sharing with you? Well, number one, you have to allow it to sink in. I didn't say I allow it. You have to allow it yourself, right? So the onus is on you. It's not on anybody else. Okay. So your success in life is going to be on you. My success in life is going to be on me based upon your definition. Okay. So you have to receive that knowledge by, how do I want to say this? Not allowing it to penetrate your mind. Okay. By going over the information over and over and over and over until it indelibly gets imprinted in your mind. Okay. Like a hammer hitting a nail over and over and over and over again. That's how we learn, right? Repetition. The law of repetition is how we learn. Okay. So as I said before, the cornerstone of my podcast is the 5 vital questions and achieving your vision, because this is ultimately what I'm looking to do. Like, I'm going after my vision. I have a specific vision in what I was called to do. I was born as specific through a specific lineage, all the way from the first man, all the way through all this thousands of years of millennials over and over again to through my grandparents and through my parents and everything like that. So I have a vision already inside me, right? I already know what that vision is. And within that vision, there's an assignment. So the assignment basically means there's one specific thing that you're supposed to accomplish with the time that we have. So that's why we're in a time constraint in this physical body, in this physical realm. That's why we can't slow down time, right? Now you can harness time. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but here's a tip. The way you harness time is getting the right kind of knowledge, understanding, which means comprehension, and then wisdom. Okay, wisdom means application, right? It's good to get wisdom from other people who are going somewhere where you want to go. Okay, now, so that is free will. So again, as I said before, listen to something at least 7 times, okay, and take notes, and you'll get the concept. Okay. Now, here's how you can achieve your vision and your assignment. It's all law based. Go back and look at some of my YouTube lives. I talk about different laws, right? The phone that you're watching me on, okay? There's a manufacturer. I talked about this, and I'm gonna keep saying it over and over and over and over again. One for me, another for you, because I need to keep reminding myself. A manufacturer creates a product and built in laws for that product to succeed, right? Before that product hits the market, that product is tested vigorously, right? People in white suits. So when they give you when they put the image at the end of that line, that manufacturing line, and they launch it into the marketplace, they know when they give you and me a manual, which means the manufacturer's mind, guess what? We know this phone can send text messages. We know when we dial 7 digits, right? Is it 7 or 10 digits? Then you can call somebody, right? How do you know that this thing can get on the internet? That's what the manufacturer says in the manual. That means the maker's mind, right? We know that they know 100% is going to act the way it's supposed to act because it's already been vigorously tested. Okay, so that's the same thing with you. The reason why you're listening to me now, thank the Lord that you still have breath in your lungs, right? You still have a vision, you have an assignment that nobody else can achieve but you. So again, I'm here to add value to you and to empower you so you can realize who you truly are. And then not only find that, I can show you how to find your gift. Okay, so that gift will actually open doors for you. It will make room for you in this earth, so you don't have to chase success. Why? Because you have the right kind of knowledge in certain areas and knowing these laws, and those laws are like keys. Okay, keys give you access, right? They give you control, power, access. They give you all these elements of power, okay, to succeed, and that will give you confidence. See, I can predict certain things about people without even knowing them. You say, how can you do that? Well, let me ask you a question. If you if you don't know how to do a backflip, right, and you do a backflip for the first time, or you try to do a backflip for the first time, most likely you're probably going to break your neck or you're going to hurt yourself really bad, right? Somebody that smokes, right? I can predict, because there's certain laws in our body that the manufacturer put in our body, follow me now, to succeed in life. I know it's contrary to that. We put a bunch of chemicals, right? If we do certain things to violate the manufacturer's laws of that, right? In other words, we ignore the manual. You get what I'm trying to say? The manual to mankind is the Bible, which is a constitution. So guess what? If he's a king, that means we're kings. That's why they call him King of Kings, right? Now, let me ask you a question. Over this last 20 minutes, did anybody at work tell you about that today, about yourself, that you're royalty? How about your boss? They don't even know that, right? How about the CEO of your company? They don't even know that. Let's say you're self-employed. Then your employees know that. If you're going to school, did your professor tell you that? Does your dean of students tell you that? Did your politician tell you that? No. I'm telling you that because I found out about me. See, there's nothing that can stop. Only I can stop myself. And the stuff that I'm sharing with you, there's nobody that can stop you. You say that's arrogant. No, that's not arrogance. That's confidence, right? See, the world beat us down in the culture, right? And the systems that are in place. So when you look in the mirror, you put your head down, right? When you walk past people. Y'all remember that back in the day in the 60s and 70s, right? And that happens to other people, right? Here's another thing, you should do a brief research. Look up the Greek leadership, where they basically said, if you don't look like me, you're my slave. Okay, this is ingrained in our culture, and by generation upon generation, it gets worse and worse, and it gets deeper and deeper implanted into our mind, right? So I guarantee you there's things in your mind right now, and you probably know some of it, that you're not happy with, right? Okay, there's things that I know. See, I should be already. This is just me, because my gift is in teaching in certain areas, and also in business. I like to call myself a gospel entrepreneur. Gospel means good news. Okay, good news about the kingdom, right? That you're royalty, right? You just need to get reconnected to the King. Okay, I talked about that last week. Okay. Now, let's get into this, and I'm wrapping this darn thing up. Looks like probably within the next 5 minutes, okay? So, there is definitely a financial famine coming. Hey, I'll give you a tip. I'll give you a tip about that. So, obviously, we went through COVID, okay? And so that put a lot of businesses out of business. The cornerstone of this country, let alone other countries, is small and medium businesses. If they go out of business, the whole country goes out of business, right? Gross domestic product, GDP. Okay. All right. And that right there is a productivity thing, right? It has to deal with producing something, right? Now, check this out. So here's how you can tell. So during that 5-year period or 4-year period during COVID, guess what? A lot of people didn't go back to work. So there's commercial loans that's due. And guess who held those commercial loans? Banks. I think it's about 50% of occupancy in the commercial realm. So those banks are going to default, folks. That's already causing a ripple effect. Some of you watching me right now, maybe we're laid off. You've heard of layoffs. Right? Some of you, your position got changed. Some people right next to you got laid off, right? But you kept your job, right? Which is a great thing. If you're not self-employed, you're not a business person or entrepreneur, right? And doing well for yourself. But now you got two positions. You're doing two positions, and you better not cry and whine about it, because you may end up getting fired, right? So I'm just letting you know from my sources that there is a financial famine coming. Okay, and not only that, there's war that's already taking place 3 years ago. Okay, so the stuff that I'm sharing with you, I'm empowering you. I feel like it's my duty as a human being, it's my duty as a king, empowering my brothers and sisters from the human family. And if you don't know Christ as your Lord and Savior, I can help you do that also too. See, I'm going to be protected. See, if you're in a religion, I promise you, you're not going to be protected. Right? Because the Bible is about a kingdom book. It's a constitutional book. Okay? And so a king is only obligated to take care of his kingdom citizens, right? Citizens have powers, but members are part of a religion and they don't have power at all, okay? You whining and crying and all this stuff. Because, see, I'm telling you, because I used to do this type of stuff. It used to be hit or miss, you know, because I have a personal relationship with Christ. And so, yeah, I was washed in his blood, but, you know, there was things that were sorely missing. Okay, it was things that were destitute. Okay, I'm not going to get into it. I got into some of it in my previous talks, but it was very destitute. I even told you less than 9 years ago I was only making $7.50 an hour. Try being a hero of your family with that, right? Being a husband and having a wife and 4 kids, and they're looking at you as like, man, $7.50, that's all you can come up with in 40 years. So I've been there and done that, right? Now don't cry for me. It taught me a lot of things, right? I had to revert back to a lot of these things I learned over the last 20 years, right? Because there's going to be peaks and valleys and everything like that. But, you know, we're doing fine, okay? And we're headed in, and so let's just put it like this. The worse it gets out there, the better it gets for me. Why? Because I understand a lot of these laws, right? And so laws work. Hey, let me give you an insight. The ground the ground that God made has a lot of laws in it, right? If you take a plant out of the ground, it's going to die. It puts the law of life in reverse, and then guess what? You activate the law of death. I don't know why I'm going here, but somebody needs to hear this, okay? But when you put the plant back in the ground, voila, give it a couple of days, the nutrients, the chlorophyll, all that stuff like that, the roots will get down in there. Guess what? It's going to be fed. It's going to live again, okay? Because of my 6 inches between my ears, the stuff that I listen to and watch and all that stuff like that, I know that the most valuable real estate is between the 6 inches between my ears, okay? And so it is with you, right? All right, let me get into this last person right here called the spirit man, you, and then I'm done, okay? Now, what is a spirit? Okay, well, let me back up. A spirit created all matter. Hopefully you paid attention in science class, right? A spirit created all matter. If you don't know that you're a spirit, I'm just telling you right now. You have a spirit. You are a spirit. You have a soul, mind, will, emotions, and intellect, and you live in the body, okay? Now, God is a spirit. I said in Genesis 1:26, he said, let us create man in our image, spiritual characteristics, and our likeness, function like him. Let them have dominion over what? The earth, the physical realm, okay? I just told you earlier that we are offspring of God. So you want to know his original idea? Here's what the Bible, which is the constitution of the kingdom of heaven's government, is about. A king, a kingdom, and his offspring called mankind, right? Now you see what we've done with this earth. You see the confusion that we've caused, right? If you want to know what happened and why there's death and destruction and poverty and all this stuff like that, read the book of Genesis and it'll tell you why. I'm living proof of it, right? Now, if you want to talk from a financial standpoint, I'm as wealthy as my father is. I read some scriptures to you last week in the Constitution that God owns it all. He owns you. He owns me, right? By creation. Doesn't the manufacturer own the phone that you have in your hand that you're watching me on, the laptop, right? Whose name is on there? Whose image is on that product? The manufacturer created that, okay? And so it is with you, dear one. All right, so a spirit is what? Okay, let me back up. Let me say a spirit created all matter, and matter is made up of atoms, okay? There's atoms upon atoms upon atoms, right? And those atoms have protons, neutrons, electrons, right? So your body is like an electrical conduit. It's a vessel, okay? So So here, let me give you some quick insight about this. So a spirit, if you were to step outside your body would fall to the ground. That's called physical death. You've been to a funeral before. Are you listening to me? Okay. So a spirit created from the unseen took us, you, me, out of himself and put us on this planet, third rock from the sun, gave us an environment for our body. You ever notice that? The sun is at 17 degrees. It's not at 18 degrees. What'll happen at 18 degrees? Well, look it up. We'll burn up, right? Excuse me, at 18 degrees, we'll freeze to death. 16 degrees, we'll burn up. So this body is conducive for the environment. Look, all the balances, all the chemicals and breathing and CO2 and oxygen, all this stuff like that. It's perfect environment for us to be on this planet, right? So it is when you have a baby. You create an environment for the baby. Give him a crib, her, a crib, right? Clothes, Pampers, diapers. People start giving to you. Have baby showers. You get what I'm trying to say. The environment is conducive. Okay. Now, that has to do with energy. Atoms have to do with energy. Words are electric. You should write that down. Words are electric. You can't see them. They're spirit, right? But they carry a frequency. The higher the frequency, the higher the energy. Okay. Words are spiritual. Words mean in the Hebrew means expressed ideas. See, ideas are what we think about ourselves right now in every single area. The fruit that we have in every single area of our life right now comes from the ideas, right? The reason why you don't understand kingdom concepts, and I'm trying to explain to you, so when you read the kingdom constitution called the Bible, you understand it because it's coming from a governmental standpoint, a legal standpoint, right? It's dealing with laws, okay? So this affects both sides of the brain, okay? Words do, okay? So we're constantly receiving information spiritually, right? You ever have a hunch before? Yeah. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have said that. Where do you think that came from? I had dealt with your spirit, you, and your soul. Are you listening to me? All right. Now in conjunction, it also affects our brain also too. So you got to realize we receive information from our spirit, goes to our soul, mind, will, emotions, intellect, hits our body. There's information that we get from our body, hits our soul. See, it's going back and forth, right? There's certain things that I'm connecting with you right now with your soul. I believe it's either the Latin or the Hebrew. It means soul means sucre. It means social. So we have to have that social aspect, okay? So you can't just be a hermit in your house. You have to have some type of social interaction with people, right? That's the health of the triune being, which is us, okay? This is what a lot of people don't want you to talk about. People that have control over, let's just put it in big areas of our life, right? Things that are happening behind the scenes that you don't know yet, or some things you're probably finding out, especially over this last 4 years, 5 years. There's a lot of people that don't want you to know. But I'm going to keep telling you, and I want to empower you. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, whatever like that. I want you to understand that the Bible is not a religious book, that Christ is not a religious man. He's a king. I want you to come on back home, right, to your Father in heaven, because you're a spirit and he's a spirit. But that's going to be up to you, right? And I can show you how to do that if you want to know that. Okay. Now, vision is an unseen. Vision is part of the mind. Okay. Now, your vision is something that's been put inside you like a seed. Every person, physically speaking, is a seed, but I'm talking about spiritually. The vision was put inside your spirit. Okay. And so you have to get it in the right environment, right? You have to put the right stuff into your ear and eye gates. They're gates. So you can allow things in or not. Okay. Now, I know you're maybe captivated by certain areas, maybe at work or something like that. But for the most part, we can determine what goes into our ear and eye gates. Okay. Now, if we already know that we're not surplusing, as I like to say, increasing in certain areas, then we know we're missing something because we keep taking NASCAR laps, right? See, thoughts come around over and over and over again, right? Our thinking, right? It's that same wearing out that same pathway, okay, in our mind, and we keep making the same decisions a lot of times, and that's insanity, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you, like myself, and that's why I'm listening to other people that have more than I have, and I want to be that they're where I want to be in life in different areas in life. That's why I'm listening to them also too, because I want to break that cycle, okay, of thinking, okay? So your vision, in order for it to get passed down or tied down or lassoed, to lasso your vision, you have to understand you must apply the law of sight, okay? Now, how do you apply the law of sight? The law of sight, and I'm done after this, is that you have to write it down. Write down your vision. If you don't know your vision, take some time out. That's part of adding value to yourself, okay? Take time out from the things that keep you broke, spiritually, mentally, physically. I'm sorry, I don't have time to play, okay? Because as you already know, time is ticking, is not waiting for anybody, right? Same thing my mentors did with me. They had to get strong with me, and I had to look in the mirror, okay? Because people are counting on you. I'm counting on you, okay? You have a vision, you have an assignment that nobody else can achieve but yourself. Are you listening to me? I'm talking about you. I don't care about your past, okay? Give that up, all right? Forgive yourself, okay? And if you don't know how to do that, look up John 3:16, okay? Romans 10:9 and 10 in the NIV through 10, okay? So write that down on a piece of paper, okay? Now, I'm pretty much done. I will be back next week, guys. Just remember that you are part of a colonization idea, okay? That's God's original idea. You are royalty. You are kingship. I love saying that word, kingship. You may not believe it now, but you keep hanging around. Keep block the stuff, all the stuff that you know that's causing negative emotions and negative anxiety. Get rid of people who's not producing the right kind of fruit. Now, if you want to stay where you are in life and go backwards, by all means, it's all up to you, okay? Here's some scriptures to look up. Genesis 2, Genesis 6:3, and Genesis 1:26, okay? So you guys have a great week. I'm out. I'm done. And remember, your future is not ahead of you. It's trapped on the inside of you, okay? And your tree has to be in the right environment to bear fruit, to feed your fellow man. You need to win. I need you to win. So go ahead and win big. I give you permission. Have a good night.